Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating medical breakthrough. We're unpacking the findings of Dr. Daniel Amen, who has spent decades analyzing a staggering 83,000 brain scans. And look, what we're going to explore today, it challenges literally everything we thought we knew about mental health, behavioral issues, and psychiatric diagnoses. It turns out the way we've been diagnosing mental struggles, it might be fundamentally flawed. But don't worry, the solution we're going to uncover is incredibly empowering. Let's get right into it. Part 1, Psychiatry's Big Blind Spot. We're going to kick things off by exposing a massive, honestly kind of terrifying blind spot in modern medicine. Dr. Amen actually started out as an X-ray technician, and that's where he developed this deep, deep passion for medical imaging. His medical school professors used to ask this brilliantly simple question: how do you know unless you look? It's a basic premise that makes perfect sense in almost every other area of medicine, right? And that exact question sparked a huge realization for him about how we historically and even currently treat mental health. Just think about the stark contrast here. If you have heart problems, what happens? A cardiologist looks at your heart. If you break a bone, an orthopedic doctor takes an X-ray. Neurologists look. Pretty much every medical specialist actually looks at the physical organ they are treating. But psychiatrists? They are virtually the only medical specialists who never actually look at the organ they treat. Instead, they talk to people, look for symptom clusters, and just make educated guesses. Without imaging, psychiatrists today are basically just throwing darts in the dark. They're diagnosing patients the exact same way they did way back in 1840. Think about that. That was when Abraham Lincoln was struggling with severe depression. Our medical technology has absolutely skyrocketed over the last century. Yet the standard practice for diagnosing super complex brain conditions is essentially locked in the 1800s. And guessing in the dark like that, it often leads to the wrong treatments, which is exactly why you see so many psychiatric medications carrying those severe black box warnings. Section 2, Looking Inside the Brain. Let's see how a powerful modern tool changes this entire paradigm. The real game changer here is called SPECT imaging. It's a nuclear medicine study that looks at blood flow and brain activity. So it doesn't just show the physical structure of the brain, it shows how the brain is actually functioning in real time. SPECT imaging literally takes us out of the dark. It evaluates the physical health of the organ and tells us three absolutely crucial things: whether a specific area of the brain has good activity, too little activity, or too much activity. And this right here perfectly illustrates the physical reality of mental health. When you actually look at the scans, the evidence is just undeniable. A healthy brain, it shows full, even, symmetrical activity. But when you look at a brain suffering from Alzheimer's disease, which, by the way, actually begins in the brain 30 to 50 years before any symptoms show up, you can physically see the back half of the brain deteriorating. Or take someone with obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD. The front part of their brain is visibly working way, way too hard, which totally makes sense why they literally can't turn off their racing thoughts. Moving to Section 3, the illusion of single disorders. The big takeaway here is why symptom guessing is so incredibly dangerous. The illusion of the single disorder is completely shattered when we look at these two patients. Both of them were diagnosed with major depression. Both presented with virtually the exact same symptoms. But look at their brains. Patient A has radically low brain activity, while patient B has radically high brain activity. If you don't look at the brain, how on earth could you possibly know what treatment to give them? Treating both of them the exact same way just because of a symptom checklist, it's a recipe for disaster. The treatment absolutely has to be tailored to the individual brain. Section 4, Trauma, Behavior, and Crime. What happens when we try to treat behavior without fixing the underlying hardware? Well, the physical reality of the brain deeply impacts our whole society. Dr. Amen points out that mild traumatic brain injuries are a massive, totally hidden cause of psychiatric illness. For example, he treated a 15-year-old boy who'd been kicked out of 3 different residential treatment programs for violence. They were just throwing behavioral therapy and meds at him. But guess what? A scan revealed physical damage from when he fell down a flight of stairs at age 3. You can't just use talk therapy to fix a physical brain injury. It just doesn't work. These undiagnosed brain injuries are often the hidden root cause of a whole devastating cascade of issues, from homelessness and addiction to depression and suicide. And that brings us to a really fascinating application of this technology within the criminal justice system. Dr. Amen has actually scanned over 500 convicted felons, including 90 murderers. And what he found was pretty striking. People who do bad things very often have severely troubled, physically damaged brains. It's just a pretty radical idea. Instead of just throwing criminals into toxic, stressful environments to warehouse them, what if we evaluated and treated their brains, making them functional again so they could work and support their families upon release? Well, it isn't just humane, it makes profound economic and societal sense. Section 5, Healing the Damaged Brain. Okay, here is the ultimate payoff and the most empowering part of all this data. Seriously, if there is one single concept you take away from this explainer today, let it be this. You can literally change a person's brain. You are not stuck with the brain you have. Damaged brains can actually be rehabilitated, and when you make the physical brain better, you inherently change that person's entire life for the better. The proof of this is just astounding. Dr. Amen and his colleagues conducted the first and largest study on active and retired NFL players. Back when the NFL was claiming they didn't know if playing football caused long-term brain damage, these scans definitively proved high levels of physical trauma. But the really exciting part wasn't finding the damage, it was the recovery. By putting these players on a targeted brain rehabilitation program, a staggering 80% of them showed measurable improvement in blood flow, memory, and overall mood. Reversing brain damage is a completely new frontier. And we see this miraculous kind of healing in everyday people too. Take Nancy, for example. Nancy was diagnosed with dementia. Her doctor essentially wrote her off, basically telling her husband to go find a care home because within a year she wouldn't even know his name. But instead, Nancy was put on an intensive brain rehabilitation program. Her physical brain improved, her memory improved, and 4 years later, Nancy still knows her husband's name. It's a beautiful, real-world testament to the brain's ability to heal when we actually target the physical organ itself. Section 6. Changing future generations. To truly grasp why looking at the brain is absolutely critical, we have to talk about Andrew. Andrew is Dr. Amen's nephew. He was a really sweet kid until, at age 9, he suddenly attacked a little girl on a baseball field for absolutely no reason. He started drawing these horrifying pictures of himself shooting other children. Tragically, he was a mass shooter waiting to happen. Now, most psychiatrists would have just thrown darts in the dark and heavily medicated him, right? Just like they did with the perpetrators of Columbine and other tragedies. But because Dr. Amen insisted on actually looking at the organ, a SPECT scan revealed a golf ball-sized cyst in Andrew's left temporal lobe. No amount of therapy or medication would have ever fixed that. So they surgically removed the cyst, and Andrew's sweet, loving personality was completely restored. Today, he's a taxpayer, a homeowner, and just a thriving adult. Let's zoom back out to that massive number we started with, 83,000 scans. What this massive data set proves over and over again is that mental health is brain health. And when you have the privilege of changing a physical brain, you aren't just changing that one person's life. Think about Andrew. Because someone bothered to look at his brain, he is a better son, and he will be a better husband, father, and grandfather. Fixing the physical brain literally changes entire generations to come. And that leaves us with a final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer today. We have the technology. We have the proof that conditions ranging from depression to violent behavior are deeply physically tied to the health of the brain. We know for a fact that damaged brains can be rehabilitated, saving lives, families, and society as a whole. So, if looking at the brain can prevent tragedies and heal our communities, isn't it time we demand that medicine stops throwing darts in the dark?